start talking about concepts like the future of work and getting people work ready and ready for what the future looks like, and not what our education and our careers have looked like. So I'm here, I'm not a lecturer, but I do want to talk for a couple minutes because I know that y'all are studying inquiry-based learning right now. And I think in formal ed settings, there's an inclination to consider how important inquiry-based learning is, which is a great thing, but there remains an expectation that instruction will be really organized and linear, and that's not a great thing. The problem with executing real child-centered education and an inquiry-based approach to learning is that curriculum needs to be kind of individualized, and that can lead to curriculum that's all over the place and not linear at all. And a small amount of customization for lesson plans for every single individual learner in your classroom spaces is a really big ask of y'all, because you might have 20 or 30 students. And so if we're talking about, kind of customizing to all of those people, that can become a circus, and that's your job. And if you're a student right now, that's going to be your job, and that's what we want to ask of you. I think inquiry-based learning requires learners to be somewhat self-directed, and for a student that's been in today's typical classroom, I think that's a foreign concept. Can they, and I don't know, are y'all early childhood or are your students all over? Okay.
Well,
So even
a certificate is EC through grade 6. So probably
okay.
most of us are elementary, but then some are early childhood and kindergarten and primary.
Well, so these students, as they get to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, they haven't yet been trusted to manage their own assignments, their own day-to-day, their own projects without really explicit instruction from the teacher. And so they're looking at the teacher like, well, what's right? What does it mean to pass? What does it mean to be successful at this? And so getting them to know that we trust them to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, that failing at an assignment or a single day or a single interaction with another student or the teacher doesn't define who they are as a person and doesn't automatically make them a failure, because that fear is really contrary to what inquiry-based and child-centered learning environments would look like, right? So, add to this the fact that if you want to take the true hands-on elements of inquiry-based learning, that's messy, that's expensive. There are all these unknowns and risks that schools and school districts aren't saying, sure, take all the risks in the world. And I hate that for y'all. And I think it becomes the individual teacher's burden, right? Like, how much of this can I do? How much risk is reasonable? How much will I be able to do without a boss that is going to be mad at me, or some sort of catastrophe? And then, finally, it's hard to measure this kind of learning that's more free form. It's easy to measure, okay, this is the assignment and this is how you pass or fail or show your that you know this, and you can get a grade, and that's a measurement. Or you can take a test and things can be measured. With the inquiry-based learning, sometimes what a learner understands and the knowledge that they attain doesn't show up for a while until maybe there's a connection to be made later with other subject matter. So I think that what you end up with inside an average formal education classroom, and this isn't just public school, but private school and even preschools, and in the larger schools and the districts, is that inquiry-based learning sounds so good in theory. And this is what we all want and crave and wish we had had as part of our education, and we want for our own kids and the kids that we love and teach and see on the street. But I think that there's a narrative of like, well, it simply can't be done. We can't do it here. That's for other places. That's for more radical spaces, like the space that I have. And I think that that's the mindset that probably you and I and the people that we kind of keep picking up as we roll along in this world, that we're trying to break and bust up. And it's not just idealism. I think it can be done, and it takes a lot of bravery and a lot of hard work from teachers. It's easier to follow the same curriculum that has been taught in your space or your classroom long before you were there. But if we want to serve the needs of students and learners and have them be able to be actually ready for the future, there are things that I think, tools that I want to just throw out at you. And I think Josh and I were gonna, sorry, do they call you Josh? Probably not. Okay. Professor Thompson. Things that, resources I want to share with you, like beyond this conversation. So I think as the teacher, if you're always looking for and finding and using as much as possible a tool that enables the learners to set their own pace and that requires very little permission and guidance from us, then that won't slow people down, right? If you have learners and they're in different spaces and they can keep going without asking you, that those tools are awesome, whatever they may be. And Scratch is a great example of that. And I won't go off on a tangent about Scratch, but I'm happy to give you info about using that in classrooms. And making, I'm a makerspace, so it's like, well, it's easy. We have all the makerspace stuff here, but you can make with cardboard and markers and things that are in classrooms. And I think enabling as many assignments as possible to be project-based that contain elements of hands-on making, like prototyping an idea. Yeah, were you gonna say something about that?
I want to invite anybody in the class just to give a 90-second overview of our Ramps and Pathways cardboard challenge from the very first day of our class. Anybody? Thanks, Adriana.
Hi, Dr. Yeah, the first, that activity, we review the first time in the classroom that kids are like free to create like ramps and pathways. They just have like the material. There is not really like a step-by-step instruction. It's just like how we will create. And actually we did that exercise at the classroom. Each table have to do it. And each table have like a different ideas, come with a different ideas about how to create like the pathways, like the ramps. Yeah, after you go and review the other table, you say, oh, that's right, we can do that, or maybe we can add this or our project or things like that. So it's like creation, and let them think and create and use the materials and explore.
Yeah,
Adriana. So that's exactly connecting your experience that we had a very simple maker space. I just brought in cardboard. I brought in a bunch of marbles and a bunch of little Matchbox cars, and we experienced a maker space like Ness was just describing.
Yeah, well, and the hands-on stuff is really important. I also, my experience with a lot of classroom teachers who work for me in the summer and things is that they sometimes will be really proud to say how they limited the kids. And I've never really understood how that's a positive. Like, I think everything that's inside the space that you're in, it shouldn't be off limits. There should be no people like, well, stay in your group, or that those supplies are for art. They're not for this social studies project that we're doing. Like, I think anything that you can access safely and it's not grossly consuming or using up things that you really can't afford to use up, I think that everything should be accessible during those experiences. So if you bring cardboard and you bring marbles and it's about solving a problem of getting a marble from point A to point B, and they want to use their bodies or take their shoes off and use a shoe, and you got to say yes, like say yes way more than you ever say no. I only have 3 rules in my space, and they are no broken heads, which is a safety rule. Obviously, don't do anything that's horribly unsafe. Don't be terrible. So if it's something that hurts a person or an animal or breaks the property, that's probably terrible. And then it's just have fun with it. And those are really our only rules. And kids almost never abuse that. You know, they just kind of, it's a great way to not limit your learners. And I think, you know, another part of that is being really deliberately collaborative with the environment. Like, make sure that everybody understands that it's not cheating to share ideas. The maker community and the LCL people that you're talking about, they're really big on, as long as you credit the person, you know, or where you got the idea from, it's okay to use other people's ideas. That's what the world looks like. It looks like looking at other people's paper. Every work environment is the sharing of ideas and resources. And so I think like just being very deliberate about your collaboration and quickly forgiving all the mistakes and the failures. The last thing that I'll say is I think it's really important to let your learners question everything and question you, and not get defensive or not be like, well, I'm the keeper of all the answers and the enforcer of the rules. It's okay to question me if you're respectful. It's okay to question, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And if there's the right sort of level of respect for everybody in the room, then you don't run into, well, that's hurtful that you question me. Something that I say over and over and over is just assume the best about everyone else. Assume that what they're doing, they're doing the best, or it wasn't something that was designed to hurt or slight you. And so, again, I don't think that this is an idealistic way to be. I think it's a way to be. And I will always just know that when I like talk, I'm not a lecturer, so I'm done talking at you, but I'm happy to dialogue with y'all and answer questions. But know that I'm here and totally about supporting anyone that any of these things I just said resonates with you, especially if you end up in school settings where other people are telling you this stuff isn't possible and you're wrong and you're so radical or weird because you say that we can let kids have trust and collaboration and kind of shoot all over the place as long as we're safe and respectful.
Nice. So it's open for questions. People who want to repeat something or explore some application. Mess, I really appreciate so much of that concluding comment that really said, yeah, you can call this weird, you can call it extreme, but if it's, you cannot negate, you cannot say that this is not the way children learn, the way that learners learn, adults, and so in that way it's so affirming and so appropriate. And yeah, that count me in. And that if I'm weird like that, that's right. That's who I am. Any ideas?
Yeah.
Question? So I want to know about this moment in transforming education, turning it back into home environments, turning it back into children's hands. I know a lot of the school-generated homework for kids to do is just diddly squat, paper, pencil, sit down and sit and get. But I know that there are some great innovations that are going on, and some great connections between school, child, and family. And so what are your thoughts on this moment?
Are you asking me or your class?
You.
Well, so it's funny that you have the page from my website that says everyone's a learner. One thing I actually always say is everyone's a teacher. So we have kids that have been in my space coming to classes and camps for years, and they teach the other kids. And I have to keep myself off of Facebook and stuff right now as every mom's on there. And I get it, but they're like, I need to drink wine and being a teacher sucks. And it's like, that is so indicative of like us, like our generation. So the boomers and the Gen X and how we've grown up. My kids, when their parents are going to be like, well, of course, everybody in the house is teaching and learning from each other. Like I have a hard time not getting on there and typing out, don't you have 4 kids? What do the older kids know that the younger kids don't know? What do the younger kids know that the older kids don't know? Right. But I could be doing that all day. I think there's huge opportunity in what's happening right now, even though it looks like it's something that's really bad. I believe that all these parents that are complaining are having to really face what education is and looks like. They're having to face where their kids are at and what they're learning and what they're not learning. And sometimes it's easier to make jokes about getting wine drunk, but we're all thinking about it. I think that there are going to be a bunch of businesses that emerge from just this experience. I think that there are going to be teachers that launch really cool side hustles over this. I hope they do. I incubate a lot of those in my space. So that maybe is a call out for people that have business ideas in the education space. Yeah, I mean, I think it remains to be seen how this is all going to shake out. You know, what is next school year going to look like? Are we going to be allowed to be back out in public in the summer, and will summer camps be really full, or will people be like, hey, I actually kind of liked this time at home? That's what I'm fascinated about it. I can't wait to see, but who knows right now.
But a lot of your work in the workshop is about like empowering families to make those choices, and not just a summer camp where you drop them off, but it's like an extension of the kinds of nurturing environments that they have at home. At least I've heard your description before.
Well, where I've struggled with the business side of it is people have expectations that I was never willing to fulfill. And one of those is segregating by age, even segregating by level of skill on something. I put brand new coders in with people that are advanced or kids that have been in the camp 2 or 3 times before, and everybody's kind of learning together. And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about the inquiry-based learning. Like, it's a really hard thing to accept, but it's just reality. Accept that the people that are inside a class can all be the same age and be at very different stages of learning or understanding something. And I think the more that we embrace that, and the more that we just kind of mix up groups, that might be a little bit of idealism right now, but in my space, I do that. One thing that comes up all the time is parents saying, well, I wish I knew how to solder. You know, my kid came home and they made a circuit board and they soldered. Oh, I wish I knew how to do that. I will say that every single time I try to schedule something that's intergenerational, even though people have told me over and over and over, oh, I would love to do that, the adults don't show up. They want to put their kids in it, because I think it's a mindset of anybody maybe over like 25. I'll say that because my oldest kid is 26. Anybody over that age is kind of like, oh, well, I'm grown and I've learned and I have my degree in this. And they're a lifelong learner is considered like a hobbyist or eccentric, that they're always learning a new skill or something. That is shifting a lot in younger people, which is great, but we can choose to be more curious and learn more things anytime, you know, and we can choose to make spaces that are open to a 4-year-old sitting next to a grandmother learning the same thing.
Any questions, reflections from our class? Do you know why I invited Miss Wright to talk to us about curriculum? She's got passion. She's got a great insight into the power of learning and structuring learning in an open and productive format that really follows kids' interests. Someone volunteer, make a closing comment and say goodbye to Mess. She's going to leave right around 1:30, and then we're going to go on and talk more about our little projects that we're underway with, big projects. So someone, please open up and give a closing comment about our guest speaker.
Hi, just to say thank you for sharing with us your work, your ideas. You know, this last thing that you say, that you don't separate for age, was like, even for learning level, was interesting, because now that I did my observation, one of my worries was what happened with these different levels of learning, how I help to the lower learners to try to be in the same level. So this is like completely like, okay, they can be in the same classroom. So
yeah. So I don't know what's practical and what you can get away with in a more formal setting or in a school. But one thing I do when it gets really crazy, because of the fact that I do enable this, like, such a wide range of sort of where the kids are to all be in the same space, is they'll all be at me with a question, or they'll be lined up from me to the door, you know? And my big thing is to kind of stop and go, okay, how many kids are in here? Okay, 16, well, that's 32 hands. How many? I'm 2, right? I'm one person with 2 hands. And then I say, you know, what is your need? And I make the entire group listen. And one kid's like, well, I just need to, know how to save this file. I'm like, who in the room knows how to save that file that can help you? And I'll just run through them really fast. And you only have to do that a few times before they're looking at each other. So I think when you have a group of learners to celebrate and point out anybody that's excelling at something or has like sort of hit competency at something, and then enabling that person to feel like they can also be a teacher, that you're not, if you just keep saying in your mantra is everyone's a learner, everyone's a teacher. Kids all the time show me how to do something and I'm like, I never knew that was there. And I think that being okay with being vulnerable as the adult leader in the room is really key. So thank you for your comment. Thanks to all of y'all. And please know that I'm easy to find. And Josh, you're going to dump some of my information there, but please always hit me up. And I do teacher workshops and stuff too. So if y'all ever need me in the future, or if you just need to cry or scream about what ends up happening in your classrooms or schools, I'm here for you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. It was great insight.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Lauren, for having that last word. Bye, Miss.
Bye.
Thank you.
So you got it. You figured out why I invited that guest. But nah, the real reason is I'm proud of you all. I want to show y'all off. I want to show your great projects off and celebrate in my groups of people what's going on. So y'all tell me what's going on. Any concluding comments after Mess left to think about, to wonder or ask me or share your reflections? She and I worked up a blog post that she basically followed in that 25-minute lecture, and I have access to it and will share it with you all. All right, let's look in on our Unit 5. Some people have been uploading pieces of their work inside Unit 5, May, integrated, inquiry-based integrated unit discussion topic. My preference is y'all get together and kind of put it in a theme. I haven't seen this one. It just came up while we were talking. And excellent. So the lesson plan, be better contained within your group so we could see them together. So think through, how do you want to share your material with us, not just individually, but try to look at the group piece. But that's not the main part. The main part is just think through how much fun kids will have with these projects, these ideas. Keep adding ideas from your field work, looking at what kids are doing in homes and what you're watching parents as teachers are posting in their social media and materials. So I think there was another question I had about this work, but I can't remember what it was. Just to kind of get a plan for closing this out, for making a sense of final to this this unit and this project. So you tell me, how do y'all want to show and tell and share your work? You don't need formal presentations, but if you and your team have put something together, we'd love to see it and look over your shoulder and play with your materials. So the first step would be to upload it here in Unit 5, and then we'll make a plan for when we share out. I think it's back in February under this module called Designing Learning. That's not it. No, that's not it. Do y'all know where it is? February. I guess scroll way down here to this discussion about chapter 5? Is that where we first really initiated those? Yeah, this is the Dewey quote. I forgot where it is, but someplace in here you all put your initial webs about what your initial ideas were for, I think it's chapter 4. Webbing, thank you. So teach me what's best to help you take this moment from our work. You may have noticed I was kind of tough on our work in T-Cert early in the semester, mid-semester, and anybody not showing up in T-Cert got a midterm grade that was not the true grade of their class. It was just a marker that said, hey, by this time you should have progress on this and have made some success on it. I am finished. I'm not going back to T-Cert. I'm not looking in there anymore. So it's on you, that you are looking at what are the tools I'm using to build up my knowledge of curriculum, the core subject areas, and how am I translating that into a type of knowledge that I can show, I can spit out on a high stakes test. That's on you. That study, practice, pushing each other. We're here. I'm here. Your team members are here. Aggie Stryker is an amazing resource for talking about how testing works. I have no idea what the testing schedule is like during this shutdown and ramping it up. Anybody have any experience in trying to prepare for your PPR this summer before your internship?
I know in my other class, my teacher said they were holding off on those tests because they're in person. But we have until December of this year because they're hoping everything will be, I guess, resolved with this virus. But for now, like the PPR and the THEA, like if you still have to take the THEA and stuff like that, those have been stopped right now because of the social distancing. That was my understanding from my other class.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate that update. So that's a part of the testing piece of your preparation for certification that will be very interesting to note how you're going to fulfill all of these responsibilities. Do let me know if you have any difficulty connecting with anybody on your TK20 applications or your uploads. I'm not an expert on TK20 or any of that, but I know people who can help you. So keep in touch. Let us know how to support your work. So this work on sharing together and reflecting on our curriculum design is all that's left for this good coursework. This May discussion board is where we need to be to upload your unit, tie together the pieces that you see there. Tell me when you want to present and show and tell. Maybe your show and tell is 5 to 7 minutes. Maybe it's 17 to 20 minutes. Maybe you have some activities you want to take us out and look at a video clip or look at a science experiment from Steve Spangler. He's one of the examples of an active live science guy. Hey, maybe you want to give us like homework to prepare, like tell us, get a soda bottle, get a seltzer tab, get a bottle of distilled water, So whatever you're making up to create for your activity. And some of us have the stuff and some of us won't have it. So it's not critically important, but if you want, you can invite us to participate, to prepare materials and have something to do for your unit. And then that's it. We will talk about this final in a week or so, but it's not going to change. This is what we're doing. We're just sharing it, preview it. Anything else? Fabiola, would you like to tell us what's been happening with your family life? And this will be our last word. Fabiola, we do not hear if you're there to tell us anything. I will report for Fabiola, the news is of her baby was born early this month, or maybe late March. I just don't have that message. Sorry, I don't have it. So congratulations, Fabiola. Congratulations for us. We are the teachers of Fabiola's newborn, ready to be there in school when that 2020 baby grows up and comes into kindergarten in 2025, or in 5th grade in 2030. So get your certificates, get out there and be Fabiola's baby's teacher. Anybody else? You want to volunteer for our last word?
I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for having a guest speaker on to teach us more things and go more in depth.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, everybody.